How would you like to be playing in the Bahamas in the Battle for Atlantis? And then, oh, by the way, since COVID, you're playing in South Dakota.
Yeah, that would be a bummer. The Bahamas got to be as safe as South Dakota. That's what I'd be telling myself, at least.
I would be telling that. Texas A&M is one of the SEC teams competing in the 2020 Battle for Atlantis, but I guess it'll be the 2020 Battle for, is Bismarck
Battle
the capital?
There you go.
Battle for Bismarck.
Yeah.
So down there in South Dakota. Let's bring in Tom Murphy of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette on a Toyota Tuesday. Tom, good morning, man. The question I have for you, how tough would it be to know you're going to the Bahamas and then now you're going to South Dakota potentially instead?
A bummer, man. But you know what? Everything that's going on during COVID, you have to just kind of swallow your losses and put your head down and go. But, man, I'm going to have to help you geographically. Did you say Bismarck? That's in North Dakota.
Is that North? Okay. Oh, I guess.
Right?
I was like, so is it Pierre, South Dakota? I always switch them.
Yeah, Pierre is the capital. That's how they pronounce it up there, Pierre.
Pierre.
And that's the capital. And then Fargo, of course, in ND.
Hey, real quick on college basketball while we're kind of on the subject. November 21st is, I think, the date they're kind of looking towards beginning college basketball this year and trying to get some games really while students are away from campus during the holiday break, I think is the ideology. It'd be a great deal, and I think it's becoming more and more likely that college basketball will get off semi on time as we see college football at least hitting some strides here 2 or 3 weeks in.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't want to minimize at all what's happened with COVID because I know that with people who have pre-existing conditions, it can be deadly and things like that. And there's been people of great health who've had really bad symptoms and stuff. But it seems to me, in these college athletes and in college campuses, we're getting close to zero hospitalizations, y'all.
Right.
So I just don't know. I was thinking about that this morning. Like, how do you classify, how sick a person is? There's so many people who wind up being asymptomatic. And we've seen now that it's gone through some teams that have played in games already, and they've been out, and we haven't heard anything about when guys come back if there's been issues. So the whole heart thing, the myocarditis stuff, I'm sure they're testing those guys when they've been out and when they come back, and there hasn't been any numbers. I mean, it's just totally negligible. So maybe they're thinking that we operate as safely as we can within our bubbles, and we get them to these sites that have certain protocols in place, and we can perform from there. I mean, and that's the thing. The Corona Bros that they've been labeled, it's this doom and gloom, and don't put anybody at risk at all. But does that mean don't ever go skydiving again, or go parasailing, or cliff dive, or go snorkeling and stuff? I mean, that's what humans are built for, man. They push the limits and they do stuff. And football players, I know some guys have opted out, but there are so many football players, they just want to go play football. And the risks seem to be so minimal that you have guys who are doing this, knowing that.
Yeah. I was reading yesterday where Texas Tech released the news, revealed that 75 of their football players had tested positive for COVID at some point. They didn't give a timeline on all of that, but 69 had recovered and only 6 active cases. So, and there were some, you labeled or called them as many of the Corona Bros were just up in arms over the fact that, that many had it, but, completely glossed over the fact that, hey, they're all okay. Nobody was hospitalized. Nobody's on a ventilator. Everybody's alive and doing well. And that just kind of gets glossed over in the moment. So clearly in this age group, as we have thought, and I think as the evidence and the data is bearing out in this 18 to 24-year-old age group, the health risks are extremely low from what the data is showing us.
Yeah, it really is. And again, I don't minimize the fact that some people have had it, and it's been bad reactions for some people. But I do believe that there has been some overreaction in segments of the media. Yeah. So I'll just leave it at that.
That seems very fair, and a look from both sides. All right, so let's talk about Arkansas, and now less than 2 weeks away from playing Georgia and starting their season. The SEC a couple of weeks behind the Big 12 and the ACC, a little more prudent approach to the start of the year. Arkansas gets Georgia first, and Tom, they've already begun kind of game week preparations starting this week with a 2-week run up to Georgia.
They have the mock game. I think they scrimmaged a little bit more. We haven't heard a lot of details from who looked good in the scrimmage and all that kind of stuff yet. And apparently they're waiting until Friday to really start implementing Georgia stuff on a team-wide basis. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if certain position groups are saying, this guy likes to do this, and, this is how this cornerback's going to play you when they're in their position meetings and then when they're out on the field doing their drills. So, it's starting to get real, y'all. And, I guess the SEC made a wise decision on deciding to push back a little. Obviously, I think we all enjoyed watching the ACC and the Big 12 get some games in last weekend. But I think what it's allowed them to do is have some COVID numbers and get those guys in quarantine and get them back in time to play in games. And I'm talking about across the SEC because we've seen there's been some numbers, and a team like Memphis plays a game and then has some guys test positive, so they've kind of had to go on pause a little bit. So, but what a great situation for a home opener. There's going to be a crowd. It's been really weird to watch some NFL games with nobody in attendance, and then to see like Kansas State on the student side looked, pretty healthy. I don't know what is going on in the state of Kansas because did y'all watch the Kansas game that night? It seemed like very minimal attendance, and Kansas State had a lot. So just been weird.
And the fact that they lost to Coastal Carolina that night, and just the outlook of Les Miles' football team might have something to do with that. But you bring up, Tom, Kansas State. We're speaking with Tom Murphy of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Arkansas State was able to get the better of Kansas State in Manhattan this past weekend. And this is a conversation that is talked about often, but when you talk about the Arkansas State football program versus the Arkansas football program, when you say that Arkansas State has a better football program, I believe that's incorrect. But when you say Arkansas State might have a better team than Arkansas, is that justifiable in 2020?
Well, certainly. I mean, and I tell you, if they had played in the last 2 or 3 years, and even beyond that, when, Gus was the coach and Hugh Freeze was the coach, if they had played each other, can you imagine how cranked up Arkansas State would have been? And you know what I mean? Like playing at the best of your capability. I think they could have been a thorn in Arkansas' side during some of those years. And certainly in the last couple of years, I would have given them stronger odds at winning the game. Right now, you can see Arkansas State still got some improving to do. They've got some defensive issues. I know they had a bunch of guys missing the other day, but they've got a receiver in Adams that you can throw back shoulder stuff to. You can throw 50-50 balls, and he's going to high point. He's going to out-wrestle guys for the ball, as he did on both of those end zone, those just stick plays, man, where the cornerback was there, and he's got a big body. So Adams is a beast. And a weapon. And I tell you what I really admire about what Blake Anderson's doing with this program. That quarterback rotation he's got going, they wound up with Lane Hatcher on the series that you had to go drive and win the game, and he did it. And he put that pass in, the pocket was collapsing. He got hit just as he threw the ball, and Adams caught it, and they win the game. That was his series. And Bonner's been doing well also, so it takes a special team, a roster, and personalities to accept those things like that and to thrive in those situations. So it was a heck of a team win at Kansas State. Now, on the other side of the ball, Kansas State, they blew some opportunities. I know they missed a field goal late in the first half. Their quarterback was off. They had guys that were running free that are, touchdown plays, and they missed on a couple, 3 of those. So had they been a little bit more on point, it would have been a harder hill for Arkansas State to climb, but you could just tell they were a little rusty. And that quarterback, he's got to be in the very bottom part of Power 5 quarterbacks.
Tom, we're getting closer and closer to Georgia, 11 days out. I've been scouring the Georgia message boards. I've been reading up on different Georgia journalists down there, just looking at the quarterback situation. What's your gut tell you about who's going to start against Arkansas, DeJuan Mathis or JT Daniels?
Yeah, if you read what I read from their last scrimmage over the weekend, I think Mathis has got a real chance to win the starting job. And what is he, 6'6", and he's a dual-threat quarterback? I mean, that's an extra, a big-time running back for you. And JT Daniels, I haven't read as to whether he's been fully cleared. I'm sure he'll be ready to go by the opener. But I think they might end up playing both guys in this game just to see what both of them can give you. But it would not shock me in the least if Mathis is in the saddle when this thing starts.
Yeah, I won't be surprised if they use the Arkansas game just based on where Georgia's roster's at and their defense is at versus where Arkansas is at in the program right now. Treating the Arkansas, at least for that position, to somewhat of a final dress rehearsal to get ready for the Auburn game. I think they could make some cases, to have a final position battle in that first game, and then maybe move forward with the Auburn game, Tom, and decide who their starting quarterback for the rest of the year will be.
Well, compare it on a different scale to where Arkansas was at this time last year. Ben Hicks was a guy who knew the offense better and all that stuff, but he just didn't quite have all the measurables and the big arm that, to throw the deep outs and things like that. And Nick Starkel was the guy who had the big arm and everything, but he didn't quite have the scheme. And so for the first two games, they're kind of going back and forth. And so on a different scale, JT Daniels, all the hype and everything coming from Southern Cal, and Mathis, who had an issue with it was like a cyst on his brain or something that knocked him out all of last year, but apparently he's full go, and you're only helping your team if you give both of those guys an opportunity to show how they handle things against Arkansas. And I wouldn't consider it because it's an Arkansas thing. I think even if they're opening against Tennessee or Florida, you'd still give both guys at least a couple series in the first half, and then roll from there.
All right, last question. We'll let you get on about your day. What do you think the atmosphere will be like on game day? And we know about 17,000 tickets are going to be allotted to the fans that got tickets for the Georgia game. We've seen games where fans didn't show up and use all the minimal tickets that were allotted. We've seen places where the limited number was loud. What do you think it will be like in there a week from Saturday, assuming the weather's good? Do you think all 17,000 show up and make the difference, whatever difference they can make?
Tommy, this is SEC, baby. I think they're going to show up, and I think the students they're going to have good representation. I've talked to Kevin Traynor about this, and if you're a family and you have 4 tickets, you can all sit together. So there's going to be pods of people that are socially distanced from other pods of people to the best that they can do it. I talked to a neighbor of mine yesterday. He's in his 80s. Well, he's just decided he's not going to go to games, which this is things we've been talking about ever since March, that things like that would happen. And so other people in the season ticket base will have those. But I do think the suite areas and stuff are going to be well attended. And how much noise they make, I don't know. But I do think the students are going to be there, and I think we're going to see pockets of fans throughout the stadium. That now the Kansas State deal surprised me a little bit because they were so packed in together. I don't think we're going to see that level at Arkansas, but I think we're going to be able to hear it. And I think you're going to see that throughout the SEC.
Tom Murphy of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette joins us every Tuesday and Thursday. Tom, appreciate it, man. We'll talk Thursday. You
betcha. By the way, A.J. Reed, the kicker, mom from the family from Fort Smith.
Let's go.
Mom went to U of A, and Dad, he's an Air Force brat, so I really can connect to A.J. Reed being a military brat myself.
There you go.
Awesome. Tom, appreciate it, man.
You betcha.
See you Thursday.
Yeah, that's good stuff from Tom Murphy. On a Toyota Tuesday, be sure to check out the full lineup of 2020 Toyotas, including what I drive every day, the Toyota Camry, the Corolla, the Prius, the Avalon, or the spacious crossover RAV4. Do it at your local Toyota dealer in Arkansas and get a fantastic deal. Toyota, let's go places.